All right, next up on the stand is Lotus flower, aka Lotus. Lotus is Jezebel's daughter. Let's see, Jezebel was 2, so Lotus is going on 5 right now, because she was one of Jezebel's first babies and one of my second generation keepers. Had to think whether I had any more first generations, and I do. So at any rate, Lotus is exactly what I was talking about when I talked about Jezebel and her genetics and how to improve upon them. So as I'm grooming her coat, a couple of things you're going to notice. Lotus has bangs. Lotus has long hair on her cheeks. Those are called cheek muffs. That's important. She's got the good beard like Jezebel does. But the other thing you're going to notice about Lotus is her coat pretty much hits the floor. And it's even across her body, meaning it doesn't hit the floor in the front and the back and then pull up in the center, which is kind of what Jezebel's does. So that's your introduction to Lotus and how simply one generation can improve upon the next by choosing the right genetics, by putting together the right buck with the right doe. Now, I did not, as promised, film her hoof trimming. I won't do that again. If you want to see hoof trimming, go to the Jezebel video. I'll try and remember to link it down at the bottom. And so yeah, if you want to see hoof trimming, go to Jezebel's video. Otherwise, I won't be doing that again because I presume that it's too loud and obnoxious and nobody wants to see that. So let's talk about Lotus a little bit. Lotus also carries 2 Grand Champion legs for her Master Champion series. I would love to Master Champion her out, which needs 1 more leg, but I've got a bit of a problem with that. She's a little bit older, and the preference over time with this breed has been smaller goats. The judges are looking at the goat's coat, they're looking at the goat's size, and they're looking for smaller, shorter goats. It's a miniature breed, so that's appropriate. I talked last time how I don't love the fact that we favor coat over conformation. This time I'm going to talk a little bit about why I don't like size as a focus solely, and I guess I should say. So it is a miniature breed. These guys should be small in stature. Their breed standard is that they should be refined and elegant, meaning they should have fine bones, petite structure. They shouldn't be wide-bodied. They need to be wide-bodied enough to kid naturally, in my opinion, but they're supposed to be a petite, elegant breed. They are not a meat goat. They're not supposed to be beefy. They're not supposed to be like a pygmy goat that's wide-bodied or a Nigerian dwarf that's wide-bodied. And Lotus has all of that going on except for the height, right? She's a little tall. She's still within standard for sure, which is why she's won several times. But as the years progressed and there was a focus on smaller, shorter, tinier goats, her size became a challenge in the ring. She still gets a lot of attention. She places second, third, sometimes first even, just doesn't get that championship leg. And part of the problem with that is her size. Now, this year, the breed owner, essentially the registry owner, determined that we were going to reduce the height requirement on goats. Dropped it a couple of inches from what the original standard was. Lotus still fits within that, so that's not an issue. But what's happening now is because we've put a lower height standard, people are breeding for smaller goats. What we haven't done, and what I would love to see every breed do, is put a minimum, so we have a maximum. They can't be taller than X, but we don't have a minimum, meaning that they can be as small as possible without any consequence in the ring or in terms of their quality. And while that's true for, again, the standard, now we have breeders who are breeding, similar to dogs, right? Where you start to get to that teacup level. And a teacup goat doesn't exist. Could it? Sure. Should it ever be bred? I don't believe so, right? So far, the teacup breeds I've seen, the smallest of the small, don't look like they could do the things that goats need to do. And the ones that I've known have not lived as long. I don't have any on my farm. I will never have any on my farm. This is an opinion. It is not a fact. It is my perspective on how I run my herd. I don't want goats that are so small they can't kid naturally. Goats that are so small that their quality of life is actually impacted because they can't graze and browse the brush the way they normally would. They are not able to walk in the same manner. So that's sort of my soapbox around size. I don't have a problem with smaller goats. And like I said, my challenge with Lotus is she is, again, to today's standards, on the taller side, and that hurts her in today's ring, which is why we can't get that last leg, darn it. Really would like to get that last leg. But from a genetics perspective, from a improvement year on year on year, Lotus is the epitome of what I'm trying to do with my herd. And that is to really bring the herd to a point that they have the coat they're supposed to have, but they also retain that conformational integrity that I need them to have. I work full-time. My husband works full-time. We travel for work. We cannot have goats that need on-hand support 24/7 or need to be monitored so closely that if they needed to kid and we weren't here, they couldn't kid. So that conformation, that ability to be a goat is so important to me. There were many years working in an office that we would have the barn cameras up during kidding season. I would have people in my office watching with me, and they would just come and sit at my conference table and work with me while we watched for signs of labor. And then we'd see signs of labor. The husband and I'd be texting each other and running home, right? Leaving for the day because, oh gosh, my goat's about to kid. So I do believe in being here when a goat is kidding. You want to, just in case anything goes wrong, which, anything could go wrong. A baby being breached could happen, and the doe may not be able to push it out. Babies being tangled could happen, especially if there's multiples in there. Most of my kiddings have been completely natural without any intervention from me. But that doesn't mean I don't want to be here when it's happening so that I can prevent any disasters. So yeah, we did that for a lot of years. Then COVID, right? And we got the blessing to be able to be home. So a lot less running around, a lot more just ability to watch and be present, which was nice. And as we get back to the office routine again, we're adapting back to what we need to be. So anyway, like I said, Lotus is really sort of my crowning achievement, right? She's exactly what I wanted as I researched all the genetics, as I researched what I wanted to do with my herd as I made decisions around the direction my herd was going to go. And those decisions change over time for sure. Another thing that I really like about this genetic line is the fact that they have very little undercoat, right? I am brushing out a ton of cashmere. It's spring, it's her first spring brush out. She's got a ton, but you see how quickly and easily it's coming out. Some of the other goats that I have, especially those that came from colder climates, have a lot more cashmere. It hangs on a lot longer. So again, I think I pointed out last time, Maleficent, in some of my videos, you've seen me pick on her. I just groomed her and now she looks like a sheep again because she's got more cashmere coming out. She just has more undercoat. She's from a different genetic line, another line that I love, of course, otherwise she wouldn't be here, but a different genetic line. And that line has more cashmere. So as I make decisions for breeding, there are things that I focus on differently with different genetic lines. With this genetic line, I wanted to maintain the conformation, of course. I wanted to maintain that lack of undercoat or that reduction of undercoat, right? And I wanted to retain the look, right? The refined, long, elegant look that this genetic line has. And that's what I've done. So when I picked bucks to compare them to, I was looking for those types of qualities in a buck, in addition to more coat, right? Because we talked about with Jezebel's video, again, I'll try and remember to link that below. Maybe I'll make a playlist. Maybe that's probably the better way to go. But at any rate, what I really want was to add coat to this style, this belief, right? This thing. So in order to do that, I had to have a buck that didn't have a lot of undercoat, but had a ton of coat, that had all the qualities and characteristics that I was looking for in terms of conformation, because you do not want to take away from what's already good. And then, again, wanted to see if I could improve on size a little bit, right? And that size consideration only came in when I started to think about breeding Lotus, because at the time that Lotus came about, I was still well within the boundaries of what was considered a good size for the goats. And it's just kind of shifted over time to the preference being smaller. So Lotus is a second generation for me. She's born, bred on this farm, stayed on this farm, will remain on this farm. Our goats don't really go anywhere. Every so often, I do sell some of my adult retired animals to the right place at the right time. But like my very first foundation goats are still here and they're going strong. Emma and Fanta, 13 years old each, still going strong. And if Emma had her way, she would be breeding again. She is not, but she thinks she should. But that's it. This is how we groom goats. This is how I stay on top of their maintenance and keep it fairly easy. If you have these guys as pets, you do not have to go through the amount of maintenance even that I'm going through. This is really because I want to keep them in show quality, show ready. And I've learned over the years that I'd much rather spend 20 minutes on a goat than 3 hours. So I keep them well conditioned, well brushed, and that way it remains, 20, 30 minutes a goat, including their hooves, getting them up and down off the stand, etc. Maybe next one we'll talk about the stand and the equipment I use a little bit. But that is it for Lotus. Again, if you enjoyed this and you want to see more, I will keep going. If you hated it, well, I guess you'll tell me by not watching. That'd be the easiest way. But thanks for sticking around. Talk to you soon.